United Lutheran Seminary presents the Seminary Explores podcast, conversations on faith, art, people, politics, theology, life, and more, with voices from around the corner and around the globe.
Good day. Welcome to the Seminary Explorers. My name is Nelson Strobert, and today my guest is Dr. Richard Perry, who is Professor Emeritus of Church and Society and Urban Ministry program at the Lutheran School of Theology at Chicago. Welcome to the Seminary Explorers, Richard.
Oh, welcome. Thank you, and I appreciate the opportunity to have this conversation with you.
Well, I'm glad to have this conversation as well. To begin with, what is the Conference of International Black Lutherans, or should I say CIBL?
Well, you can say both. In the formal organization papers, and when we organized, it was Conference of International Black Lutherans, which incorporated both theologians and bishops and educators, theological educators on the continent of Africa, and theologians, African American theologians, and theological educators in the United States. So the Conference of International Black Lutherans, or CIBL, includes African and African Americans from Africa and the United States, and I also should say the Caribbean, although we've yet, at the time we organized, did not have any Caribbean Lutherans who were part of it, although one of our members is from the Caribbean, but that's how we organized.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh.
But we organized. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, how and why did it begin, or how did it get organized?
Well, that's a good question. CIBL formally organized in September of 1986 in Harare, Zimbabwe. People may remember that it was formerly known as Rhodesia, and our conference was held shortly after Robert Mugabe became, I guess it's the president of Zimbabwe. So it organized on the campus of University of Zimbabwe. Yeah, and it actually, the organization of it goes back before September. Dr. Ambrose Moyo, who then became bishop of the Evangelical Lutheran Church in Zimbabwe.
Oh, yes, I remember him.
Yeah, he and Dr. Albert Pete Perro, who was the first African American Lutheran teaching theologian in the United States, and of the now ELCA, met here in Chicago at LSTC, where Pete was teaching.
Okay.
And in the conversation, it came up about what could be done to bring African and African American Lutheran theologians together. And apparently, the conversation continued, and Pete spent a sabbatical at the University of Zimbabwe with Dr. Moyo, and came back, and we had our venue where we were going to have the first conference. Pete had made good contacts there, and University of Zimbabwe was open to our being there, and so that's where we ended up going, and as they say, the rest is history.
Okay, I didn't realize, or I didn't remember that Zimbabwe is so connected to CIBL.
Oh yes. There are deep connections, and we can thank Dr. Moyo and Dr. Perro for the work that they did to make the connections.
Oh, indeed.
Uh-huh.
And you mentioned several people in terms of the initial leaders, and that included Bishop Moyo and P. Pero, and I forget the other person. But
there are many more.
right.
uh, uh, some of this goes back to the initial leaders. Goes back to, and I'll mention those individuals. Goes back to some of the activity that was going on in the late '60s and into the '70s. For
Oh,
example, the Reverend Dr. Albert P. Perro and the Reverend Dr. Will Hertzfeld and the Reverend Dr. Rudolph Featherstone were all involved in the African American ecumenical movement.
oh,
Uh,
okay.
uh, uh, Will Hertzfeld served on the board, as did Pete, on the board of the National Conference of Black Churchmen, NCBC,
Oh, yes.
and they were both active along with Rudy Featherstone, Jim Gunther, Dr. Jim Gunther, who was a pastor in New York. They were all part of the Black Theology Project, and I got introduced to the Black Theology Project through Pete
Okay.
at the 1977 consultation on the Black Church in Atlanta, and so some of the activity of NCBC and the Black Theology Project was ecumenical,
Oh, okay.
bringing theologians and activists, Black Power activists, and Black nationalists together um, to deal with the burning issue of the day was the liberation of Black people and what needed to be done. And of course, Dr. James Cone was the premier theologian at the time who wrote on Black liberation theology
Right.
and was challenging everybody about what we were doing. So those were key people.
Yeah, you mentioned those names, and it tells a story about Black theological education and Black theologians in the last several decades.
Yes, and one of the commissions of the NCBC was the Theological Commission, and after a few years, they began to focus on theological education, Black theological education, and I think Pete, Will, and Rudolph Featherstone picked that up and participated in some of those discussions and brought that to the church that they were involved in, namely the Lutheran Church in America and the Lutheran Church Missouri Synod, which later became the Association of Evangelical Lutherans, AELC.
Right,
And
right.
so Black theological thought, that thread was connected within Lutheranism, and the question would always be, what do African American Lutherans think?
Ah, okay.
And so CIBL, that was the reason why CIBL formed, was to be able to develop African and African American Lutheran theological thought. What do we think? What do we think about the doctrine of justification? What do we think about two kingdoms?
Right.
And so that was the focus of the first conference in Harare.
Oh, okay. And out of that, if I recall, a book was produced, correct?
Yes, that's right. It was the first time that I know of, and I think Pete would have testified to this, that the publishing house of the LCA published a work by African Americans and Africans, and it's titled "Theology and the Black Experience: The Lutheran Heritage Interpreted by African and African American Theologians," published in I believe it was 1988, and that was the first time I think that they had published a piece by us.
Right. Oh, okay.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
So Harare became a really significant event, as well as a contribution to African and African American theological thought.
Yes, and I think if we see, CIBL was an opportunity for African and African American Lutheran theologians to dialogue about theological education and the development of leaders for our respective communities.
Right.
And so the conversation and the dialogue and the activity that went on and subsequent conferences contributed to that. And so the publishing of the papers from the first Harare conference proved the point. What was the point? Well, the point was that there are diverse ways by which to express Lutheranism,
Okay.
and that it's not all just Germany.
Right. Exactly. I think very often when people hear the word Lutheran, immediately they go to Germany, and with roots with Martin Luther, but Lutheranism has spread throughout the world.
That's right.
Which is interesting. Yeah, I find that interesting to think about. What has been your involvement? You mentioned that Pete Pero had invited you to a meeting, but what has been your involvement over the years?
Well, I would say, well, when Pete first came to LSTC, I was an MDiv student, and so I knew him before I came to Chicago. I knew him from Detroit, where he served as a pastor of a Missouri Synod Church. But I knew him in Detroit, and so I just followed along and tried to learn as much from him about what it meant to be Black and Lutheran, and how do I express that. And so going to Atlanta was an opportunity for me to have to wrestle with, in 1977, to wrestle with Black liberation thought and its impact on Lutheranism, and then more specifically with African American Lutherans. So from the beginning, I had walked with Pete. And then I've served in some functions as secretary of CIBL,
Oh, okay.
Treasurer of CIBL,
The administrative parts.
done the administrative part. Yeah, convened several of the conferences and convened the steering committee, the U.S. portion of the steering committee. So I've been involved in delivering papers at our conferences. And in the administration of CIBL over the years.
Oh, okay. And that will continue, I guess.
I'll do it as long as they say, the creek don't rise.
Right.
I'll continue to serve as people want me to serve, and there'll come a time when the torch will have to be passed. But
right.
Yeah.
We hear you. What do you think is the contribution of CIBL to Lutheranism in the United States?
Well, I think that there are many contributions, and the first one, I think, is to recognize, there's that question: can anything good come out of Jerusalem? I believe.
Uh-huh.
Well, we've answered that question. We rephrased the question, and the question would be, can anything good come out of African American Lutheranism? And we say yes, that there is something good, that there is theological thought that is germinating within our community, and the teaching theologians we're giving thought to that, giving voice to that. And so I think that the major contribution would be that there are diverse ways for us to express Lutheranism. It's not all 16th century,
Right.
but that it reflects the context in which we are in, and that shapes what we think
Oh,
and
indeed.
how we think. Yeah. I think we've done some other things too. We've made a study guide on the one of our conferences, which was titled "Confession for a Third Millennium: Black Lutheran Experiences," and out of that conference came 38 theses,
Oh,
and
right.
we published, which you helped to put together for CIBL, and that study guide and the 38 theses are targeted, I would say, to congregations,
Right.
which was another focus of CIBL USA. That is, not only were we directed towards the academy and seminaries, but we were also had a focus on congregations, reaching pastors and lay people, and bringing them along in terms of what they thought and how to give voice to what they thought, and then sharing that between the theologians and the congregation. So I would say that's a major contribution.
Okay. Good.
I think I think a third contribution would be, and a lot of people don't think about this, would be Sybil created space and empowered other ethnic communities to organize themselves and to engage in theological conversation. Now that's a lot to say.
Yes. Could you?
What we did.
Yeah. I think. Please expand on that.
Well, before Sybil and existed, it was difficult to find the voices of people of color and those theologians within Lutheranism.
Ah. Okay.
And what did people from the various communities thought theologically? We weren't always included in conferences and making major presentations, but Sybil created the possibility for more people of color who were theologians to be involved in conferences and bringing their community's thought to the forefront. And uh, so the big example I can think of with not only the American Indian community, Native peoples community, which one of their theologians is Dr. George Tinker, but it also stimulated the Asian community in the United States. And Dr. Edmund Yee is one of the premier theologians within the Asian community, but it created space. Sybil created space for these people of diverse backgrounds to get together and to say, this is what we think.
Right.
Just like Sybil said, this is what we think.
Right.
And that's critical for the church.
Right, and critical for the church, and very critical for congregational members, because very often they're asked the question, "Why Lutheran?" or "Why are you Lutheran?" and what does that mean? So I think that really is a healthy contribution.
Yes, and there's something about being able to say, if I'm asked the question, what does it mean to be Black and Lutheran? And I've read, for example, um, uh, theology and the Black experience, I can say some things since I read that.
Right.
Now, if I hadn't read it, I wouldn't be able to give a very convincing argument,
Right.
theological argument for why I'm in the church, which is something I had to face when I graduated, because I was going to an African American Lutheran congregation,
Mm-hmm.
and people in the community, when I started doing my community activity, people would ask the question, "What is a black Lutheran?" And I could answer it.
That's right. That's right.
So um, I think that's one of the contributions that Sybil has been able um, be able to make. Um, I think another contribution is internal to the ELCA, Evangelical Lutheran Church in America, our church, and that is Sybil contributed to two things that happened. One, the development of the Commission for Multicultural Ministries in the new church when it formed in 1988.
Okay.
Some of the activity of Sybil contributed to the theological rationale for a commission on multicultural ministries. And then it got structured into the church, and Sybil, I think, can take credit for that. I think Sybil can also take credit for creating what we call the theological roundtable, which is space for people of color from all of the communities to sit at the table and discuss issues theologically from their community's point of view. Prior to the forming of the Theological Roundtable, there was not space.
Okay.
And there was not a venue for us to do that. Now, some people will ask why. Well, I have my theories. One is, of course, white racism. They wouldn't think, European Lutherans, most of them wouldn't think that we have something to offer.
Okay. Right.
and so they wouldn't normally think, well, we need, who's not at the table, and whose voice do we need to have there? And so part of the reason that Sybil formed and part of the reason for the Theological Roundtable is that we have to be in charge of our own destiny.
Yes.
And we have to be in charge of the development of our thought and express it, and get it out there, get it published, get it to the congregations. And so that to me is the liberation principle. In other words, I'm not going, let me state it positively. I want to be a vessel for what African American Lutherans think. More than I want to be a vessel of what Lutherans think, because Lutherans have already got a mechanism by which they can project that all over the globe.
Right.
African American Lutherans have a similar vessels by which to tell the world what we think. And what we think is critical for the development of our community. So that's important.
Yeah, very much so. As we almost, I can't believe the time is running out, but I would like to know, how do you envision the cultivation of a new generation of African American theologians?
That's an excellent question, Nelson, and it's one that will confront African American Lutherans for the next decade. The way that it's occurred, it's been one here, one there, one by accident.
Right.
After me came Dr. Cheryl Stewart Perrow, who's considered the mother of Sybil. She went on and got her PhD in New Testament, I believe.
It was New Testament, yes.
Yeah, and then so the issue is, I think we have to show people in the congregation that there is a possibility for folks to go to graduate school and end up teaching in our seminaries and in our colleges. And so that means people in the congregation, including the pastors and lay workers and members, have to be able to identify those young people who have the skills and the capacities to do graduate work. It's strenuous,
Right.
but and nurture them along the way, and support them along the way, including financially,
Yes.
because it one can go and do graduate work, yes, but you have to live, you got to pay bills.
It's an expensive adventure.
Yes, it is. And so I think African American Lutherans and congregations can begin to think about, how can I support potential doctoral students and professors? How can we raise them up and begin the process of mentoring and putting those young people in situations where they see and hear African American Lutheran theologians and African theologians.
Exactly. Wow.
Uh,
Well, you've given us a lot to work on for all of our congregations, and I can't believe the time is up, but I want to thank you for sharing the past of CIBL, or the Conference of International Black Lutherans, and as you envision the continuing of the organization through the cultivation of new theologians and blooming theologians in our church. So again, thank you for being our guest today.
well, thank you for the opportunity. And if I could take a point of personal privilege, I think we just lost another African American Lutheran theologian, and Dr. Richard N. Stewart. And
Yes.
and so those of us who are still part of CIBL are retired, or some of us are still teaching part time. But I think the urgency is important in terms of the recruitment, mentoring, and support of young scholars who want to be professors in our seminaries and in our colleges. So I appreciate the opportunity and the question that you asked me.
Well, thank you very much. My guest today has been Dr. Richard Perry, who is Professor Emeritus of Church and Society and Urban Ministry program at the Lutheran School of Theology at Chicago. For the Seminary Explorers, this is Nelson Strobert. Have a good day.
You have been listening to The Seminary Explorers, a production of United Lutheran Seminary with campuses in Gettysburg, Pennsylvania and Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. We invite you to visit our website at unitedlutheranseminary.edu. All opinions expressed on this program are not necessarily those of United Lutheran Seminary or the Evangelical Lutheran Church in America.